for in a commander-in-chief and president?
I mean, Willie Brown seemed to think so.
I wasn't going to go there.
I'm going there.
I'm going there.
There's a debate on this on Twitter right now about whether her sleeping with Willie Brown when she was an up-and-coming, inspiring politician in San Francisco is fair game. It's fair game. It's part of a pattern of her ascending to positions that she does not deserve based on merit for other reasons. First, she slept with this guy, Willie Brown, who was this extremely popular, powerful congressman out in California, in the assembly out there, went on to become the speaker out there. And he put her in two different positions that she did not deserve when she was only 29 or 30. He was 60. Already that affair is sus. And she was making the equivalent of 130 grand a year by today's money for meeting twice a month for these medical boards and another position for which she had zero qualifications. He was trying to lay the road for her political career. He admitted that he's the one who helped her win the role as DA, and she was sleeping with him. I'm sorry, it's fair game. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, Megan, let's agree to say she climbed the greasy pole of California politics.
Takes some talent.
But so, yeah, by the way, I think you look at the story of Kamala Harris, and you look at someone who, from the beginning of her career as an assistant DA to become to the moment she runs for president, it was one success after another. This was somebody who knew how to appeal to a Democratic primary electorate in a place like San Francisco, and then to appeal to a Democratic electorate as a whole, which is a whole bunch of liberal progressive Democrats, right? It is surviving and rising to the top in California politics, besides any extracurricular activities, is appealing to all the liberal interest groups. You got to take care of the unions, you got to take care of Hollywood, you got to take care of Silicon Valley, you got to take care of the environmentalists. But it's like the Stations of the Cross. But if you take care of everybody, then you get the nomination and you cruise to victory in the general election. That does not prepare you to win the Iowa caucuses. That does not prepare you to win New Hampshire or South Carolina or any of these other states that are just politically and culturally dramatically different to that. And I kind of feel like, even in that first debate when she, calls Joe Biden racist, things are going well for her right up until the moment Tulsi Gabbard guts her like a fish by pointing out the contradictions in her prosecution record and points out, you laughed on a radio interview about smoking marijuana, but you prosecuted this many thousand people for marijuana possession back when you were a prosecutor. And it just goes through all the contradictions. And and I think Kamala Harris never came back from that. And I think everything from the nervous laugh to the perception that she always feels like she's giving a book report on a book she didn't read, the phrases she keeps going, the haiku, Hallmark card stuff. I think it's all nervousness. I think she stepped on minds in that 2020 campaign. It all came crashing down. And I'm going to quote Charlie back to Charlie, which I think is the ultimate compliment you can give somebody, where he points out that Joe Biden only became president because Barack Obama picked him off the scrap heap of politics in the summer of 2008. And let's face it, most of us saw him as assassination insurance, right? The idea, nobody's going to take a shot at Obama if Biden's going to be a heartbeat away. And then Kamala Harris, as you point out, crashed and burned in that 2020 presidential campaign. And then because Joe Biden had promised he was going to pick an African-American and promised he was going to pick a woman, there weren't that many options. And he picked her, which I think, we can all kind of agree, did not work. And the fact that he chose to run for a second term was an ipso facto declaration that he didn't think she could beat Donald Trump one-on-one in the general election. And yet, here we are.
There's a very interesting Axios piece out that says Biden doubted Harris's election chances, that he hesitated to drop his reelection campaign in part because he and his senior advisors worried about her. They did not think she was up to the task of taking on Trump, according to 3 Biden aides familiar with recent talks. According to the 2020 campaign, his aides recall watching Harris interrogate her then chief of staff, Karine Jean-Pierre, to the point that it made others uncomfortable. I'll defend Kamala Harris on that. That's easy to do. I mean, you ask her anything, anything. Everybody
you watch
grows
any White House
uncomfortable.
briefing, and that looks like more of the same. That's
yeah. I mean, she thinks the Nobel Prize is the Nobel Prize. She said it repeatedly. The Nobel. It's the Nobel Prize. So yeah, that would grow uncomfortable quickly. They said she wasn't a team player. She stayed away from any task with risk. And then there's this nugget. In April 2022, Harris was the guest for a dinner at DC news mogul David Bradley's home, a salon-style event Bradley hosts with Washington journalists and newsmakers. Harris's anxiety about the dinner was such that her staff held a mock dinner beforehand. A mock dinner beforehand, with staffers playing participants, according to two people familiar with the event. Harris aides even considered including wine in the mock prep so Harris could practice with a glass or two. They ultimately decided against it. I'm horrified by this story. They did hold the mock dinner. They just didn't have wine. Jim, this is exactly what you're talking about, that she's awkward. She's uncomfortable. She's socially not adept. And we can see all of that.